There's a reason why you're so miserable when you're at your job and you're watching the clock until you get off. There's a reason why you're miserable when you wake up to go to work. There's a reason why you're miserable on the day before you go to work, before you go to bed, and you're thinking about going to work the next day. There's a reason why you have an anxiety, when you pull up to go into your job. There's a reason why you feel miserable in your relationships. Whether that relationship is intimate or a friendship or an acquaintance. When you have an attachment with someone and you feel anxiety about it, there's a reason for that. There's a reason, a good reason for you to feel miserable where you live. Sometimes, there's a good reason for you to feel miserable in your own body. There are so many ways that we can move away from our truer, highest self, or I'll say our truest self. There's so many ways that we can move away from it. We can move away from it mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, financially, career-wise, relationship-wise. There's so many ways that we can move away from where we should be. And this is what we often do for various reasons. For many reasons, including things that happen to us in our childhood, how we're affected by our peers in our adulthood, sometimes the validation that we need. We need to buy things, we need to have certain things, we need to look a certain way, we need to have a certain position, a certain prestige. A lot of the things that we desire put us in places that move us away from our truest, highest self. And so we really wrap ourselves and tangle ourselves into these problems. We're chasing things that go against our truest, highest self. And we can really invest a lot of our lives, our time and our energy and our finances and our resources into tangling ourselves into a knot that turns out to be a hell of a problem. Because we are aiming for something, we're reaching for something that we think we need, we think is going to make us happy. And so we're always moving away from our truest and highest self. And so that feeling of being miserable, that feeling of being anxious, that feeling of being unmoved. So many people are unmoved. They have no motivation. That feeling is important because that feeling is a undeniable indication that you are not living your truest, highest self. You're not living up to your potential. You're not giving the world what you came to give it. And what so many people fail to understand is that you are an individual. And your individuality, your uniqueness, is what you came to give the world. And so when you have to have this, or you have to have that, or you have to be in this position, and you kind of, put these binds on yourself, you rob yourself of the inability to be who you are. When you care too much about what other people think about you, whether it's positive or negative, whether someone's giving you praise or criticism, when you care too much about those things, it moves you in their directions. And anytime you're moved, whether left or right, you're moved away from who you are. Anytime you have to have something, or you have to get rid of something, or you have to hide yourself, or you have to lie because of how someone else thinks about you, how someone else looks at you, you move a little more away from your truest, highest self. I had heard someone say recently that the reason why he relishes so much in his individuality is because he's not afraid of people not liking him. And the reason that is because everybody is not meant to like you. There's going to be some people who like you when you are your authentic self, and there's going to be some people who don't like you. But if you're not being your true authentic self, there's going to be people who like you, and there's going to be people who don't like you. People are always going to judge you. And it's not to say that you shouldn't care, because that's an important part of being a human being, is having people in your life and being attached to other human beings in some way, even if it's just a few. So the goal is not to alienate everybody. The goal is to be yourself, because when you are your truest, highest self, you will attract the people around you who are actually for you, who you can be yourself around without anxiety, without fear of being judged, without having to walk on eggshells. And so what we see in society, especially today with all of the commercials and the constant bombarding of what a person should be, what they should look like, what they should drive, what they should wear, where they should work, with all of the shoulds that are constantly bombarding people, we see so much depression and so much anxiety, so much hopelessness, so much despair. Because when they become what society and culture and their friends and family says that they should be, they move away from their truest, highest self. And the further you move away from your truest, highest self, the more hell you experience on earth. In this reality. And that's what hell is. Hell is a separation from God. Understanding that you are God. So whenever you separate yourself from your true self, you experience hell. And with every step that you take back towards yourself, you experience heaven, or you experience more hell. And I'll explain. Most of the problems that we have are problems that we inflicted on ourselves. We created the problems because of what we had accepted from society, our families, our friends. So we created a major problem for ourselves, such as people, racking up hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans because they were told that they need to go to college. Or people settling down in a marriage that they knew that they should never be in. Instead of being brave enough to get out of the structure that they created, they went even deeper into it by having children and building a house and really creating a whole life. So we're constantly creating our own suffering. And then when we realize that we have created this, we have tangled ourselves in this web, then we have to go about the process of untangling the web. And that requires sometimes even more suffering and even more pain. And this is the reason why so many people stay in a situation of suffering, because they don't want to have to endure the suffering on the way out. They don't want to feel like they lost something with all of the time and the energy that they've placed into creating that havoc for themselves. or the structure that they see themselves in that's causing them the pain. And so they'd rather stay in it than to accept the notion that they have wasted time and energy. So you have those two things working. They have those two things working against them. And so the walk back to self, is sometimes hell in itself. So you have to walk through hell in order to get back to heaven. But at some point you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is the hell that you're living in worth it? Everybody has a judgment day. Almost everybody. And judgment day is really, we know that hell and heaven is real, but judgment day is the moment that you realize the ride is coming to an end. The twists and turns of life, the ups and downs, are over. And now the ride is slowing down and you can see the end coming. And as that end is coming, one asks himself or herself, did I live the life that I was supposed to live? Did I honor myself? Did I honor the gift of life by being? Or did I live for others? Did I live for culture? Did I live for my ego? Did I live too safe? Did I live on eggshells? That's your judgment. And you will also sentence yourself in that moment. Because either you'll be satisfied with the life that you lived, or you will feel that you truly wasted the opportunity of an eternity. Because you can't truly experience yourself unless you're allowing yourself to be. You're always being someone else. You're always living up to someone else's expectations or societal expectations. And when you do that, you can't truly see yourself. You can't truly see yourself. And so the misery that you feel in your everyday life, it's an indicator for you to make a change. And it doesn't get better. There does come a point where you may accept it. You may accept your own misery and you decide to live in it. And you become numb to it. But the moment that you become numb, you start to die. There is no in between. You're either living or you're dying. So the moment that you accept a fate of suffering that you yourself have the power to overcome, you begin to die. And the problem, the issue that so many people run into, what really hurts them, that instead of untangling the web that they've weaved for themselves and going back to the heaven that they really do desire, they try to find comfort. They try to find peace. They try to find heaven in a place where they're suffering. And this is neurotic behavior. This is why so many people that I've counseled, I've always noticed something that was a very common thing. They weren't trying to get out of the shit that they were in. They were trying to find a way to be happy in their shit. And there's really no way to do that. Not when you are consciously aware of the fact that you feel like shit or that you feel miserable inside of that. And so the signs are there. The feelings of misery, those signs are there. It's up to you whether or not you're going to pay attention to it and live the life that you truly deserve.